Hey folks, 4RC here. Product information video for you today for all you Traxxas e-Revo Brushless edition owners. We're going to be looking at a motor mount upgrade and also a chassis brace improvement. I think the chassis brace may fit on other Revos. I'm not sure about the nitro version, possibly the electric one that's got two brushed motors. Certainly will work for the brushless, I'm going to show you in a moment. And the thing I really wanted to show you is this motor mount improvement. So let's have a look under the shell and show you what we're talking about. Right, so I'm just going to take off the cover here that lets you see the pinion gear mesh. Now I've had this Revo for nearly 4 years. We're in just the middle of 2016 as I'm filming this, and it's been really reliable. I've broken a couple of suspension arms, and I've upgraded them to RPM and bent some steering links, and I've put the Traxxas red alloy ones on. Apart from that, it's really good. I only run it on 4S, never 6S, but I do bash it around quite hard. But the thing that's always bugged me about this is, if I just hold the motor here, I'm only putting a little bit of force on, but I don't know if you can see that. The whole mounting part here is just really soft, and you can see I'm really changing the pinion gear mesh just by a little bit of a wiggle. Now obviously the power coming through this motor, that's going to be snatching around, and I have melted, pretty much stripped out a couple of spur gears in its lifetime. I'm not sure if that's because of the wobble, or maybe I didn't mesh them properly. Anyway, it bugs me. So this mount here, this metal sheet, is obviously not a particularly strong alloy. I mean, it's fairly thick, but it's not that strong. So this problem is not the end of the world, but I wanted to cure it. So I had a look on the internet, and I was assuming that someone like Intergy or Hot Racing or someone would make a stronger motor mount plate, maybe out of titanium. So I was searching away on eBay and various Google searches, couldn't find a thing until I came across this here. Now this is not a new product by any means, so we're in the middle of 2016. I actually found this last year, and it's kind of been sat on my pile of things to do. So I think this product's been around for a while, looking in some forums, but it doesn't seem to have had much publicity, and I don't think that many people know about it. Or maybe it's rubbish actually, and I'm about to fit something that's no good, but we'll find out. Anyway, this is from a German company called HPP Germany, which is High Performance Parts. There's their website, hpp-germany.com. They do international shipping. And this is the Motor Brace V3 for e-Revo Brushless Edition. And what you get in essence is a metal plate that's going to clamp on the back of the motor, and then this bracket that's going to bolt that clamp down onto where the rear shocks mount onto the chassis. So that's the first thing, and that is specific for the brushless e-Revo because it goes on the back of the brushless motor. While I was on their website, I had a nose around and also found they do this thing here, which is a push rod brace for the e-Revo brushless. This comes off the rear wing mount tower here and goes down onto this brace point where we're going to clamp on the motor mount. And you can see this rod here. Again, hpp-germany.com. I don't know if this push rod will fit other Revos. I guess it probably would. I know you can make, just out of a steering linkage and some rod ends, you can screw down onto that mounting point there and go down onto the chassis if you make a little metal bracket or something. Anyway, let's have a look at the products. Right, so the first thing you get for your money is this very nicely machined, I guess it's anodized, it's alloy, piece of metal here, and this has got a little pinch bolt and this recess here for where the motor wires are going to come out. And what's going to happen with that is that's going to fit on the back of your motor, just around here, which I can't fit on the moment. I guess we're going to have to take the motor out to fit that on, but you get the idea. That's going to go onto there. And then we also have in the pack, we've got some mounting screws, and then we've got this little bracket here in another bag to stop it getting chipped, I guess. So this here is going to screw onto, just onto there like that. So that's the brace. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to go off and get that installed in a minute. Right, so in case you're wondering, this bracket that goes on the back of the motor weighs 17 grams, and then we've got this little mounting bit here that's another 8 and some screws. So altogether we've got 28 grams of weight, which an e-Revo isn't going to care about. While we're here, let's weigh the push rod for the back. So it's a pretty nice big fat machined alloy rod, 6 grams. A little bracket here that fixes at the back there, I think. So that's like another 4 grams. I'm weighing the bags as well, but yeah, there'll be nothing. And then we've got some rod ends and some joiners and some little balls to go in the rod ends. All told 21 grams. Hey. Right, so I'm just working out how this metal bracket fixes onto the top of the shocks. It's going to sit kind of about there. So I've taken one of the screws out that holds the rear shocks down, and here is an original Traxxas screw, and here's one that comes with the kit for the brace. And as you can see, the one with the brace is just a tiny bit longer, obviously to make up for the thickness of the bracket you're going to lose. So these screws go straight through there like that, and that's going to sit into the chassis, and then the bracket itself comes through like this, and you've got this large mush head screw here. It's just going to go on and hold the bracket on like that, and that's kind of all there is to it, apart from pinching up this bolt on the motor. But I think I'm going to have to go and bite the bullet and take the motor out, because I just can't find a way to get this. I don't think this bracket's fitting on the motor there, unless you lever the motor up so much that you might actually bend something here, which is not going to be a good idea. So I'm just going to slacken off the adjustment bolt on the motor up the end here, and obviously the black one. Let's get this into shot. The black one down there. Just undo those two, then we can pivot this motor out of the way and hopefully get the end plate on. Don't need to take it out all the way, just loosen it off a bit. Right, so I've taken the top screw all the way out of the motor mount there, so we can now pivot the motor right up till it touches the radio box. And now the bracket with a big rectangle cut out here is going to go straight onto there. But do I need to take anything else off? No, that's ready to go. So you can see that now fits on like so, and then we're going to have a clamp bolt for that. I'll put the clamp bolt in later on. So that should slide back down now. Hopefully it's not touching. Let's have a look. Just wanted to check it wasn't going to pinch the no, it's not pinching the radio ESC receiver wire, so that's fine. That looks clear everywhere. Good. So that's that bit done. We're just taking the second hex bolt out for the rear shocks. That's those two removed. Try not to move the rig around in case you move your shocks out of the way. So now I've got the mounting bracket here with the two new screws, and that's going to go straight down. So as I'm wiggling it in, I'm just making sure that this little protruding part of the brace is going to line up in this slot. Well, I've got a bit of wigglage. There we go. So hopefully you can see how that's going together. Right, just finished doing up those two long hex bolts. They seem to go on forever. So we now have the bracket bolted down onto the chassis, and that's now going to fix through that hole. I'm not going to do that up yet because the motor slides in this kidney slot slightly depending on your mesh. You can see that moving up and down there, and I need to mesh the pinion first. So I'll mesh the pinion, bolt it back up this end, and then put that little screw through there. Right, so I'm going to mesh the pinion back on now. I'm just going to put the top bolt in, a little bit of thread lock on that one because it's going into a metal thread. Now I always mesh my pinion and spur gear using the paper technique. So piece of paper, I use a post-it note. For 32 DP gears I use a double thickness of post-it note paper. For 48 DP I just use a single thickness. Real simple. You just slide your piece of paper in between the spur gear and the pinion, make sure it's sitting in between the two, and then you just literally pull your motor onto the spur gear, make sure that the teeth are not butting but they're actually meshing in, and you just squash the piece of paper, pinch up your fixing bolts, roll the piece of paper out, job done. You've got a pretty much perfect mesh every time, really nice and reliable, no fiddling around. Obviously once you have meshed your pinion, it's a really good idea just to push the truck, buggy, whatever it is you're doing, roll it along so you're getting at least a full rotation of the spur gear, and just check the mesh just in case you've got anything that's a little bit warped or bent. You might find that although you've got a good mesh in some parts of the teeth around your spur gear, you may find that it binds up perhaps if you've maybe got a little stone wedged in on the tooth or something like that. Roll that out, and now I can feel this little rock between the spur gear and the pinion that's nicely meshed. I'm just checking we've still got that movement all the way around. Right, so that's that end of the motor sorted out. So now we need to do a clamp here with a clamp bolt, which we'll put a bit of thread lock on, clamp that down, So I might swap this out for a bolt with a nylock nut in the future. So that goes down onto there. So this is going to squash the bracket onto the back of the motor and pinch it in place. Right, so I've put the clamp bolt in place with a bit of thread lock, and I'm just putting in the final, it's kind of like a washer built into the top of the screw here that's going to go in and mount these two parts. There's a little bit of thread lock on that. Now it's a bit difficult to get a hex driver through here onto that. This one's not going to go in, so go back to a trusty Allen key for this one. And this is the thing that's going to attach the bracket that's pinched onto the motor down to the chassis bracket. Right, that's done up. So now, in theory, if we try to do the wiggle test that we did earlier, we shouldn't be able to make the motor move. No, that's got that. That's really good. Oops, I'm using so much force my fingers have slipped off. No, so now that motor is really nice, and I'm putting a lot more force than before, and I can't make it waggle. So that's looking good so far. That's possibly one of the easiest installations that I've ever had to do on any model. Very nicely machined part. There's no rough edges on the metal. Sometimes you find on the edge of the alloy you've got quite a sharp edge, but they're nicely rounded off. The anodizing looks good. Yeah, cool. That looks good so far. So let's do the chassis brace next. Right, chassis brace. Got all the bits out of the packet. So the main bit kind of does what it says on the tin. It's a tube that's already threaded. It's going to sit in the middle, and then we've got these threaded bits of rod here that's going to go in. Now, right, just putting this bracing rod together, and a thing to notice, these little metal sections, they have a short thread and a long thread. The long thread goes in the plastic ball ends, and the short thread goes into the metal alley center rod. One of the long threads is a reverse thread, so watch out for that when you're putting things together. Don't try to put the long threaded reverse one into the alley rod, because you find it won't go in because the thread's in the opposite direction. So short thread in the center section, long threads into your plastic ball ends. So there we go, there is the central brace, and that's going to then have these sort of your traditional Traxxas little balls popped in, one on each end, and then there's some small Allen screws that are going to fix these down. Now one of them is just going to go straight into this bracket. So here's the bracket that's on the back of the motor mount, and that's going to go into there like that, nice and simple. And the other one has to go up here, but they give you an additional bracket to mount that. So what's going to happen is this screw is going to go through the rod and then into the bracket. Again, I'm going to thread lock that because it's metal on metal, and then this bracket is going to sit over here, and they give you there's a recess, and I reckon you want to put the recess part down onto the plastic to give it more engagement, and then this screw is going to go down on top. Let's get the bracket on the back here. Now, as I say, you can kind of make your own brace. I've seen a bunch of people on YouTube and forums do this out of just bits and pieces. Really, you don't have to buy this part, but it's nice to just have stuff that all just fits and not have to faff around too much. Right, so now we're just going to fit the rod in both ends. Again, I kind of want to have a bolt that goes all the way through and then has a nylock nut underneath maybe, but we'll go for thread lock for now with what's been provided. So one's going to go in that end. Now, I've never used a brace before on the Revo, so I don't know what's a good idea with regards how much you adjust this. I guess you don't want to put too much tension on it. I'd rather have it just kind of braced, rather than actually being sort of flexing the chassis in the opposite direction to normal. So that one's in a nice position. Now this one needs rotating slightly. Can I do that? Yes, that's tightened up slightly, but that's now straight down. Is that going to fit? Yeah, that looks like that will go. Bit more thread lock on that one. There we go, one very nice brace installed in just a few minutes. Right, so there's the rear brace in position now. That was very nice and simple to install. You can see the rod's loose on the ball ends. I haven't got it sort of stretching out, putting any sort of positive pressure between these 2 points. It's just bracing, it's not pushing, it's just in position. But if we do get chassis flex, it'll stop that. And there's the motor mount, nice and black, so I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but that's just clamped on the motor there, and it's taking the waggle out. So I'm happy I've achieved what we wanted to, which is to stop this motor flexing, and we can carry on bashing the Revo, hopefully for another 3 to 4 years with no more problems. So there you go, there's the HPP parts. I'll put some links down in the video description. As usual, questions or comments, please post them below. Thanks for watching.